guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
When you're a young scorer in the game, you tend to make things harder, for yourself at the end of games, or, once, like I said, once teams start making adjustments and start trapping or start denying and making it harder for you, you need a player like that to relieve you, and I watched him, do that for Donovan. I watched him do that for Devin as well. So, I think it'll be another piece for myself and Karl and a lot of the young guys. He's just gonna make the game easier.
That was D'Angelo Russell a few days ago talking about Ricky Rubio's ability to unlock other star players. Donovan Mitchell in Utah, a recent example, Devin Booker. So we've got write that down predictions today on the show on this Wednesday. One of us hit a tape measure home run that we'll get to on write that down. But we want to start off and bring our friend Dane Moore into the show here on Mackie and Judd. Dane has been a friend of Mackie and Judd and SKOR North for a few years. He's a Timberwolves insider and host of the Dane Moore NBA podcast. You can support his work right now at patreon.com/Dane Moore NBA. What's going on, Dane? Thanks for coming on.
What's up, guys? You're talking Timberwolves. You always got the Twin stuff, the Viking stuff. I finally get a Timberwolves invite. It's about time.
This is what we've sort of noticed. So, I think our listeners and our followers on YouTube now, they know all the stuff that happened on May 1st at SKOR North and all the cutbacks. And so the one thing that we have sort of found throughout the last 6 or 7 months is there is a huge, and
I've been telling you.
And it's so this is super inside baseball, but We've had our Purple Daily YouTube channel for, I don't know, a year and a half, whatever it's been. And we've been growing that. It's been super fun. And we started a new YouTube channel from other Mackie and Judd content. And we just started it in the late springtime. And we start putting some Twin stuff out there, some leftover Viking stuff. The stuff that gets the most traction and people want the most is Wolves offseason speculation, roster speculation.
But once they start playing games, that's where you have trouble. It's the damnedest thing.
It's totally true.
They're like, who cares? But wait, the Wolves might trade their third string point guard. Give me more. Tell me more. Wojbomb? Did you say Wojbomb? It's the damned, and it's been true for years. Timberwolves speculation and trades and signings, Dane, the fan base eats it up. They play a game.
It's because everybody wants to be a GM. That's what it is.
I think you're right.
Think about it. I actually get this from a Timberwolves fan's perspective. It's how could you stay connected to this if your primary motivation was just watching the basketball, right? It's been too terrible for the past 15 years that it wouldn't be that. And I think what fans really connect to is the idea of, the transactions and the moves and how do we pair this guy with this guy? How much salary cap space there is, luxury tax and all that. And the NBA does that really well. I feel like the NFL's is I don't know what the hell's going on. And baseball, there's no salary cap. It's like a board game in a way, kind of, the way this all works. And it's really accessible for fans. But at the same time, I'm with you. We got to take some of that intrigue from the offseason. We're talking about Jordan McLaughlin. It's 10,000 downloads on a Jordan McLaughlin episode. It's he's not even going to play 10 minutes during the season. But I'd like it if people would watch those 10 minutes when it happens. I don't know. I don't get it.
The fact, the reaction to the Ricky Rubio trade. The Wolves had the number 1 overall pick on draft night, and the reaction to bringing back what may or may not be a starting point guard. I guess we'll see what the lineup combos are. I think it just shows you how people. I've said this for a long time. It's the state of hockey, and it's the state of hockey because there are more professional players that come out of this state, and there's more great high school hockey per capita than any other state. But basketball is just, there are fans in this state that are just begging the Wolves to be relevant and the Gophers to be relevant, and hopefully the Wolves can at least live up to some of the future hype here. But I want to start you off with this because we brought up Ricky Rubio, Dane. I love that soundbite from D'Lo. And we did some digging on this, and we were looking at lineup combos from the last few years of Ricky Rubio, and the players that he was the best with on the court. Or I should flip it around. When you look at Donovan Mitchell in Utah, and you look at Devin Booker in Phoenix, and you look at their 2-man lineup combinations, Ricky Rubio consistently showed up at the top of those lists and was adding value to their games. Do you think he can have the same impact on D'Angelo Russell and get him to whatever that next level might be?
I think the answer is probably yes, but in ways D'Angelo Russell is different than Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. So I don't think that precludes the possibility. But I think if you're trying to draw a comparison between Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker and a Timberwolves player, it's Anthony Edwards. Like I think that's where, if you want to say Rubio's going to help a guy who's playing off ball, catch it in a second side situation, have a clear space to attack the basket, whatever. Like, I think that's eventually what Anthony Edwards is, and he helps there. With D'Angelo Russell, we're talking more about a point guard. Like, Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker can be like lead guards, but there's going to be some inherent like passing of the torch, which I think in 2020 in the NBA can work. But I understand people being skeptical about that because that is going to take some getting used to. We did see, remember Rubio back in the first Tibbs year, and you would be like, oh, Chris Dunn's in now, and now Rubio's like kind of standing on the wing waiting to shoot. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Like, there is going to be some of that. But at the same time, it's 2020, multiple lead ball handlers is the way I think to go these days. And D'Lo has shown historically that he's somewhat comfortable with that. So it's an experiment for sure, but I think it could work.
Give me the state of Cat, Dane, because this whole thing is intricate. It's tough to watch. It is, as a person, you feel terrible for him, but just give me the state of a guy who, if you're a Wolves fan, at the end of the day, is easily the most important person in that building as far as does this team finally do something or not?
We brush over that, I feel like. Everything connects to Karl. Everything. Yes. The whole future, every move is tied to it. Christian Rosas is tied to it. Ryan Saunders is tied to it. Everything is tied to it. And we don't know. We don't know what's going on with Karl. And quite frankly, we never really know what's going on with Karl because Karl isn't transparent about what's actually going on in his head. You guys have watched press conferences, whatever, media availabilities for years. That's just true. And now we're in this situation where we go, you know what, Karl, it is okay for you to have whatever you're having in your head. And we're going to give you that space. Do that. Yet at the same time, we're sitting here, there's a preseason game on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I cover this team and I'm talking to people who are inside this team and they don't know what the hell's going on in Karl's head. And that is just, I think if you're a Timberwolves fan, that's something that, provides some anxiety where you're like, wait, I've been told everything connects to Karl-Anthony Towns, yet I have no idea where this is going. And this feels like a pretty important year where the team kind of needs to be moving in the right direction, because if we mess this kind of next window up, are the Timberwolves even going to be in Minnesota? I mean, those are the thoughts that are going through fans' heads. So I think it's something we're respecting Karl, but everyone's like, it's kind of time to play basketball.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that he has people around him that have gone through. I mean, every loss of a parent is going to be different, but Ryan Saunders lost a parent suddenly, and Ricky, he's got people on the roster that he can lean on. And I think, I don't know, my biggest question, and we talked about this earlier in the week on the show, when he said basketball is not therapeutic. And I should preface too, everyone on this show has lost at least a parent, and in some cases more, and in some cases unexpected. And so, so I think from that perspective, we can empathize with what he's going through in your mid-20s or your early 30s. And when he said basketball is not going to be therapeutic for me, it's going to be hard to play basketball, all three of us had a different reaction when it came to getting back into our own personal work after something happened. And again, everyone's different. And that made me raise an eyebrow in terms of, wow, like, if you don't view your livelihood as an escape and a reprieve, and you get to go join your friends and teammates and people that have gone through similar, like, if that's not therapeutic for you, that seems pretty dark to me. And I don't know, I don't have a great answer other than just like, wow, like what is it that would potentially pull you around the corner and back to a place where you can move on with your life? If basketball doesn't play a role in that, that's dark to me, Dane. I mean,
this is just hard, but like, do you take what Karl-Anthony Towns says at face value?
I don't know.
Like a normal press conference, like when he talks about it after the game. Judd, I mean, you've been there. Like, it's hard because
He gives you the surface a lot, and he doesn't provide insight. But what Phil just said, I do take, Dane, as this. And my question is, what's it going to mean? The quote that Phil just brought up to me is Karl saying, I have God-given ability to play basketball. I'm really good. And I have long played basketball because my mom enjoyed it a lot. My dad, my family, it makes me a ton of cash that's going to set everybody up for life. But here's the problem. And Dane, we've seen this in football, we've seen this in basketball, and this is the difference between our jobs, which we love, and just being gifted to play a sport. We've all covered and seen a ton of guys who are great at a sport who don't truly love that sport. Like the biggest thing to me is everybody who plays it loves it. No, they don't. So if you were to come back, Dane, right now and tell me that Cat simply is great at basketball but does not love it, I think that's the truth. And my question is, where does it go from there?
I don't think so. I think this is another example of Karl-Anthony Towns trying to say something because he thinks it's the right thing to say and it not actually being what it is. I think basketball will be therapy for him. I think historically it has been. You brought up Ryan Saunders. You brought up Ricky Rubio. You brought up Anthony Edwards. All of those guys on the team have all gone through the loss of a parent and seen it to be therapy. You guys mentioned that with your work. I don't know. I think it's an example of a quote Karl has given backfiring and having now a negative connotation to it, as you guys just laid out there. For me, man, I'm not listening. I'm respecting it, but we just got to see him. Let's see if he looks unenthusiastic about playing basketball the first 15 games of the season. Then you know what? Maybe, Judd, we can have a conversation about he doesn't love basketball. I think Karl-Anthony Towns does like basketball. I think it's something he can find therapy in. I think he's just really struggling with how to put on a front-facing sort of veil to this situation that he is clearly does not have fully processed yet. So a lot of those quotes, I was there in that press conference. I transcribed them. I don't know if he did himself favors by saying some of those things.
I think waiting is fair. I think seeing him in the preseason and seeing what this looks like. So let's fast forward and let's just say,
yes.
All right, he figures it out.
It's interesting,
and he's a key piece. I'm curious as to what your thoughts. They have clearly put Gerson Rosas front office, Ryan Saunders have clearly said we need flexibility. We need lineup combination flexibility. We need guys who can play potentially 3 or 4 different spots among the 5 on the floor. What as you look at it right now from your perspective, what are like the 2 or 3 most interesting 5-man lineup combinations that you think they might experiment with early?
5. Well, I think it's good to bring this up because rotations are going to be so critical for Saunders, right? Like we're going to all get obsessed about who the starting 5 is. And we're going to be, is it going to be Rubio? Is he going to come off the bench? We're going to start. It's about, can you put Edwards? No, is it good to put him with Cat? Is it good to put him with Rubio? Do D'Lo and Cat need to play together all the time? I think those are the questions. I think Beasley is going to be suspended at the beginning of the year. So that is a nice little wrinkle into this whole thing. But what I think the opening day starting lineup would be, if nobody was suspended, everyone is healthy, nobody has COVID, whatever, would be D'Lo, Beasley, Okogie, Wancho, and Cat. I think that's what it is. Yet there's room for Beasley for Edwards to eventually start over Okogie in that spot. But I think maybe they take that a little slow, which sounds weird for the number 1 overall pick. But I think that happens and Rubio comes off the bench. So that didn't really answer your question because it's kind of hard to list specific groupings.
What they're doing right now too is like, all right, well, there's like 7 guys who could start, but what do we do here? So they're going to tinker with this all year.
I think the power forward spot's fascinating though. Just like in general, and that's what I just did my last podcast on. It's just so interesting how Gerson Rosas has decided to like pursue building this team around Cat, right? Like what does everybody know the biggest weakness on this team is? Defense. And where is it most weak? The front court. He's decided to to go all in on this small basketball with guys like Jake Layman to play power forward next to him, Juancho Hernangomez, Covington back in a year ago, Josh Okogie maybe this year. I'm not even saying I agree with it. I'm just like, that's bold. You're the biggest issue on your team. You've decided to commit to like we're playing fast, we're playing small, we're playing it this way. It's like, I'm just fascinated to see how it plays out because it's risky.
If you're Gerson, do you pick up the phone and call Houston about Harden and even ask?
Oh, Harden? No, PJ Tucker maybe. I mean, Harden is
reckless speculation.
I mean, Harden. What do you even do? You got to trade D'Lo. Like you're not trading D'Lo right now. Like
I think it was John Hollinger in The Athletic. It was like, what are some non-obvious trade destinations? And it was the last one in the article, and he said, "This is going to sound crazy, but," and it was like D'Lo, Culver, potentially Edwards.
I think
and like
you'd lose Cat right there too. So I think Cat would say, "Bye, see ya."
Well, you'd get a better player.
But that's what. Yeah. It's fun to talk about.
It is interesting. It's just the Harden thing. It's such a weird time for any team to trade for him, right? Because he's such a definitive like part of the way you're going to play basketball. So all these teams they're playing their first preseason game. They have their whole offense set up, and it's like, actually, we're going to bring Harden in. We're going to throw away that whole playbook. We're just going to give it to that guy. Like
it would be like the Vikings. Like, all right, we've been running the Kirk Cousins play action offense, and Lamar Jackson is demanding a trade, and gonna have to overhaul everything. It'll be great,
right? Herschel, because he came in and basically their entire scheme changed because it's like
Herschel Walker.
Yeah. We're going to put Herschel Walker in the eye, but we don't run that offense at all. No, we're going to do it. It's the same type of deal.
Yeah. Whatever team makes a trade for Harden, and I'm assuming that is coming at some point, it is going to be like that, and it's probably going to work out about as well as Herschel Walker worked out of Minnesota.
It'll be great stuff.
Dane, before we say bye, and we'll get you on again, we love your insights. And again, if people want to support Dane's work and the Day More NBA podcast, which will be multiple days a week and after Wolves games, patreon.com/DaneMoreNBA. Give us between like the first preseason game and the first regular season game, besides Karl-Anthony Towns, and just everything about him. Let's put him off to the side. The thing you are most curious to see in the lead up to the first game.
I am very curious to see Anthony Edwards. I think we all had a lot of time these past few months, so I watched a lot of Anthony Edwards, film. And if you watch Anthony Edwards play basketball at Georgia, his behavior on the court looks nothing like what his behavior has been, in the media saying, this is these dudes' team. Like, I'm a rookie. I'm falling into a role. At Georgia, that was his team, and he did whatever he wanted for good or for bad. And it's just the Anthony Edwards pick is interesting. And there's been all this talk about, like timeline. We're trying to have guys who are Cat and D'Lo's age and all this and that. And Anthony Edwards is like 6 years younger than them. I'm very interested to see how well he fits into that whole sort of dynamic. And if he can be, they kind of need him to be like, recognize his ability within a year or two. If this is like a 4-year project, that's not going to fit the timeline, And I think we'll kind of get an idea of that in some of these preseason games. He hasn't got to play much at all, but early on in the year, we're going to know, is this something where in 3 months we have kind of a real NBA player, or in 3 years we have a real NBA player? And I'm interested to track that.
Yeah. Great stuff, man.
Cool.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And again, you can follow Dane on Twitter at DayMoreNBA, patreon.com/DayMoreNBA, and we will see what happens. And hopefully the season starts. That's the first step. Like, can the season start?
Well, you're going to lose all your listeners once the season starts. They start playing games anyway, so it doesn't even matter, right?
More off season. Let's expedite next year's draft.
Who's getting traded?
I'll be back in 9 months. I get it.
All right. See you, Dan.
Take care, man. All right. So yeah, I thought I liked I liked the Karl-Anthony Towns discussion because I think Dane nailed it. That it's very likely that Towns is trying to explain something and trying to articulate something that maybe doesn't fully align with how he actually feels, but he's trying to say what he thinks people want to hear, and he's trying to be a leader, but he's also trying to process this terrible year. And so I am 100% willing to just let him listen, man, take a month or two, get back on the court.
That's what the team's going to do.
See what's going to happen.
That's exactly what the team has to do.
But, you
got no choice.
But what's unfortunate when bad things happen is like life moves forward and work moves forward, and you have to find a way to process and grieve while also moving forward and be in the spotlight. And it's just a really unenviable situation.
Dan brings up a really, really intriguing point, though, and that is this. And it's probably not, I don't think it's as far as the team moving to Seattle or Vegas possibly, but Gerson Rosas and Ryan Saunders' jobs now more than ever are tied directly to Cat. And it's going to be a fairly, in sports timeline wise, Phil Mackey, it's going to be fairly quick because this team is going to be sold. And if this team looks like it's on the right direction, and that's going to start with Cat, I think everybody gets time, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, the process is working. You guys are doing a great job. If it doesn't go well though, and if it's sputtering and falling apart, the person that buys this team, who might have his own people in mind, is going to take a long, hard look and say, okay, hold on a second here. You had a superstar player for X amount of years and it's not working still.
Yeah.
So I really do think that because Glenn is going to sell this team probably at some point fairly soon, that's going to be really intriguing to watch, because everybody's job is basically now, and I think, tied to Cat, and the new person's going to come in and say, either it's going great, you're doing a great job, or, oh, no.
Yeah, but you could also make an argument if you're the front office that, listen, like obviously a huge part of this is tied to Cat. And if we can get Cat to realize his full potential as both a basketball player on both sides of the court and as a leader, then we're off to the races. But we also have all these other chips, like D'Angelo Russell. I'm not saying he's going to be like, a top 5 star player, but there's more room for him to grow.
Sure.
And they just landed the number 1 overall pick in Anthony Edwards. And so I would say that their portfolio of young franchise talent is more diverse than it was a year ago when it was just Karl-Anthony Towns. If I had to rank, like, what are the things about the Timberwolves I am most confident in, and maybe I'll be wrong about this, front office is number 1 for me. I don't know. Like, I love Ryan Saunders, but he has a ton to prove yet too. And he's the youngest coach in the NBA. I think he's done a good job weathering this Tom Thibodeau transfer to Gerson Rosas storm, and he clearly connects with the players. And so I do think his long-term future in the NBA is as a head coach. He's just so young and inexperienced that he's got a lot to prove. But I probably even rank him a little higher than I rank my confidence in Karl-Anthony Towns to be the number 1 guy on a team that can win the championship right now.
But if I buy the
front
team,
office way above both.
But if I buy the team and I come in with ideas about who I would like to run the team if things aren't going well, I don't care.
I get that.
Like if I'm Glenn and you go back to Glenn and they're like, Glenn, I might say, you know what? Exactly right. Let's continue on. And
it wouldn't be like buying the Steelers where you're blowing up like this. Listen, we haven't finished below 500 in 20 years or whatever, right?
But if I say, who I'm real good friends with the Van Gundys, and I'm real good friends with all these people, and boy, you know what? It might be fun for my people to run this team, and things aren't going well. I don't know that you get the benefit of the doubt that you're talking about, which in theory makes sense.
Yeah.
But, I just paid X amount for this team. I'd really like my own guys.